Welcome to Face to Face. This is a show about change and what's next. It's a show that asks questions and peels back the layers of our average everyday experience and goes beyond scratching the surface. We interview people doing incredible things who are making a difference around the globe. Join me as we listen in and get one step closer to understanding that big ideas shared create collaboration. Collaboration can inspire community, and communities create social change. I'm David Peck, and this is Face to Face. Dave Conlon is with the Canadian Student Leadership Association. He's all about providing opportunities for high school students. He was a vice principal, he was an English teacher, he was an activities director, something he talks a great deal about in this interview, and about how it could really benefit young people in providing them entrepreneurial angles to where they're heading in their life. He talks about the numerati and how people within the school system run everything by a spreadsheet. He talks about those kinds of people anyway. And he talks a lot about rolling up your sleeves and getting your hands dirty and empowering others and capacity building and all those wonderful things, giving back, little things making a big difference. You're going to enjoy the interview. Dave Conlon, the Canadian Student Leadership Association. They hold a student leadership conference across Canada, and he's a good guy, and you're going to learn a great deal from him. So listen in, and we'll see you soon. Well, welcome to Face to Face. We are sitting here in Guelph, Ontario, not too far from the University of Guelph, and my guest today is Dave Conlon. He's with the Canadian Student Leadership Association. Thanks for joining us today, Dave.
Good to be here.
Is Dave okay?
Dave is great.
Dave is great. The might hear, you know, for some of those more attentive listeners, you're going to hear a few robins in the background and maybe some kids having a great old time in a recess, just sort of, I don't know, half a kilometer away from us.
Nothing wrong with recess.
Nothing wrong with recess. It's, what is it? It's 1:30 on Friday. I will be officially hitting recess about 3:45 today. Little Sailor Jerry and a Coke, I think, is where I'm heading. So Dave is the... I was going to say I think he wants to be the Grand Poobah, but I'm not sure, of the Canadian Student Leadership Association. We're going to learn about them today, but we're also going to learn about the Canadian Student Leadership Conference across Canada, and we're going to talk, I think, about leadership and entrepreneurship and social change and little things making a big difference. And so Dave is a former teacher. He was an English teacher who became an activities director in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. Dave, what... So I kind of have a sense for what the Canadian Student Leadership Association does because of, you know, our conversations and also just the meetings at the conferences and so along the way. What do you do? You're a not-for-profit. What's your primary focus?
Our primary focus is with advisors across the country and trying to sort of support and network them together with either resources or information.
With advisors?
Advisors.
And what do you mean by that?
Because we're involved in student leadership, and in order to have a student, you need a teacher, and we see our advisors as the teachers of students. And so when we support the advisors, they go back to the schools and give the students the tools, the ideas, and again, the support necessary to make great things happen in their schools and their communities. So our focus is essentially the end product is students being student leaders, but again, it's a student. So we're looking.
So an advisor is a teacher?
Yep.
It could be a
Absolutely.
math teacher, it could be a guidance counselor, it could be whatever.
Yeah. And
do you ever find that you've got a kindergarten teacher that's advising grade 8s?
Interesting, there's a lady in Saskatchewan, she's a kindergarten teacher advising high school kids. But
that's awesome.
It's a K-12.
Do they write in crayons? That's awesome.
Again, they cut out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
No, she has a lot of fun. Gail Fallman is an amazing lady there.
So this is about, obviously it's multi-layered by the sounds of it, but it's really about student leadership.
Yes. And trying to give them the tools that allow them to do things in their school rather than just saying, here, go do some good stuff. We want to make sure that they've been trained and told and given organizational skills and speaking skills and all of those things that are necessary for the kids to do things in their community and their schools.
Is there always a fundraising component connected to what you're doing? I mean, because I'm in sort of that sector, it sounds like there is, but not necessarily.
No, not at all. Again, getting the kids to run a barbecue at lunchtime. Sure, there's money involved, but you're not going to make a lot of money selling hamburgers at lunchtime in a high school. but the organizational skills that they learn in trying to put on that event are enormous. That it's them learning on the ground that, geez, somebody better get a change box for us, and somebody better make sure the pop's cold, and all of those things.
So the CSLA. One more acronym to add to my list. You guys are capacity builders.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Of educators and students.
Right.
Is that your mission statement? Did we just write your mission
Sure.
statement?
Yeah. Make sure that you have.
Doesn't sound very exciting, though.
No, it sounds.
Got to get some more emotional words in there.
No, again, as I see myself, as just meddling in the lives of others in a positive way, and trying to say,
That's good.
Can I do something to make your job easier? And that works for us. And
are teachers overworked?
yes, absolutely. They are spinning their wheels to try and cover the curriculum in the classroom. And then that same group of teachers who are great teachers in the classroom want to do something beyond, because they probably had a great high school experience themselves, and they also want to pass that on to the students that they're working with and love working with. They're the only group of people I know that will spend their own time on a weekend learning how to spend more of their own time with kids. They're busy, and I call them my favorite crazy kind of people, because they're...
Oh, I bet. Yeah, my wife's a teacher librarian. My brother's a teacher who's a principal now, so it kind of runs in the family to some degree. But do you think there's... I mean, it's a pretty interesting place to be in Ontario right now with the strike, or the strikes that are kind of currently going on. Work to rule being announced in a couple of hours, I think, this afternoon. And also this curriculum stuff we've got going on with the sex education and teachers. My wife is at school this week, and about 40% of the school wasn't there because they just decided to protest, and the kids stayed home. And so things are happening right now in a way. We're heading into summer. Do you think as a result of those kinds of things, teachers have lost or are losing their idealism along the way somewhere? You know, I want to change the world. I'm going to teach these kids. I'm going to plant seeds. I'm going to affirm and include. And yet here's what's going on in a whole other part of, the culture that's doing the exact opposite. Or at least it seems.
If they haven't lost it, it's slowly being ground out of them. And they're losing it because a lot of situations, and I travel across the country speaking to advisors across every province, and they're losing the ability to control their own situation. They're having to go to this vice principal or this principal to ask for permission to do this thing in the school or do this thing with kids. So even that entrepreneurial spirit that a lot of them had initially has been taken out of their hands and passed on to someone. And it could be even someone at the board office who has no idea of what's going on in the schools or the classrooms. Is
it bureaucracy? Is it politics? Why are they losing that control or that ability to make those decisions for themselves?
I think there's two things happening. The numbers people have taken over, my favorite, the numerati.
That's funny. I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
They run everything by a spreadsheet.
Oh, that's good.
Education has taken on this numbers business model, and they forget that we're dealing with people. So when you drive education and curriculum by the numbers, you have to spend a lot of time focusing on that. The other aspect that I think it has changed the game is that I say there's too many fraidy cats in charge, and the liability is the big question that everybody asks when they're afraid to do anything that's out of the ordinary. And they're much more willing to hand over that responsibility to a recognized, paid-for company or corporation rather than doing it themselves.
Isn't though, kind of entrepreneur realism 101 about taking risks?
Absolutely.
You can't be afraid.
No.
You might have the fear, but you still do it anyway.
No, you have some fear because you have to have that fear, otherwise you're stupid. And then you have the fear, and that balances some of the things that you thought you might try in the beginning, but then after that, you proceed and roll the dice and make sure it happens because you've got everything in place. And in over 30 years of activities, a lot of great things have happened because we've gone out on a limb and kids have had fun and learned a heck of a lot of stuff in doing those things.
It's really interesting, as I reflect on, and I'm sure I've had this conversation with my wife Elizabeth, but those courses that stand out. I had an English teacher who was challenging, but a great guy, and I fell in love with English. I had a math teacher at one point, that was a biology teacher, graphic arts, and there are these individuals, these advisors, I guess, as you call them today. They might not have been called that before, but those are my fondest memories of my school experience, high school, all the way back to grade school. Like, I have memories of Mrs. Pruder in grade 4. I can't believe I remember her name.
Nobody's ever fallen in love with a textbook. Like, every teacher
nice.
has a math textbook or a science textbook or King Lear or whatever. It's the individual in charge who brings you to that appreciation of it. And it may be the English teacher, or it may be the science teacher that you got all of a sudden, extremely excited about chemical bonding. Well, big deal.
That wasn't my thing, but
no, I know, and it isn't yours. But guess what?
I know.
The kid down the hallway got all excited and fired up, and that's what the individual brings to it. And that's, I see a lot of saying, "Oh, YouTube is going to become the new university." I'm sorry, you need an individual in front of another individual, getting them excited. That's where learning happens. It doesn't happen from that calculus textbook or that grammar book or whatever.
Do you think that are there trends, with respect to student leadership? I mean, are there we talked a little bit before the recorder was on, but we talked about a new sponsorship or a new partnership with the Canadian Cancer Society. Are there trends with students with respect to getting involved, giving back, leadership things? It's the car wash this year, it's the barbecue next year, to work with Free the Children or Terry Fox Run or whatever the case it might be.
Yeah, I think what's happened is that kids today want to get their hands dirty. They want to be boots on the ground, let's say. When I was a kid, I was happy on Halloween to walk around with my little orange box and collect for UNICEF. And I'd turn in the pennies or nickels or dimes into the elementary school at the end of the day. Kids today, no, they don't want to do that. They want to go to Dominican. They want to go to Guatemala and, give soccer balls to the kids. So that's a real difference, I think, for the advisors, that if the kids aren't directly involved in doing it, they will find something else. Because mainly they've been treated by the adults in their life as adults. So the parents have said, how do I figure out this cell phone plan, and what kind of computer should I buy, and where would you like to go on holiday? And heck, when I was a kid, I was never asked whether
it's true.
I had an opinion on where we're going for a holiday.
Yeah,
and it certainly wasn't acted upon. We went to Upper Canada Village, and I saw another damn butter churn. It was, because it was good for me.
Right.
But today's kids are treated.
You're entitled to my opinion, right?
Yeah. So that's what's different. They get excited about this opportunity provided, say, by Me2We or those types of things, or going downtown and working in a soup kitchen. So
I'm, because I work in the development sector, I hear a lot of opinions about what works and what doesn't, and the cynicism of raising money, and the cynicism of donor fatigue, and just that not another sad story, that kind of. And so oftentimes people will kind of attack these short-term trips, the DR trips, the going to Kenya to build a school, drill wells, and wouldn't it be better just to take the money and send it overseas? I'm the product of a trip in 1989, sorry about the consumeristic kind of angle there, but I went on one of those trips for 4 weeks. I was on strike at the time as an electrician, really did roll up my sleeves, really did want the experience, raised the money through friends and family and my own donations. And I mean, to say that it changed my life is an understatement, and it has had a deep and intimate connection to everything I've done since. And so when I think one of the things that really saddens me about people looking at some of the Me2We, like Free the Children like experiences, they forget that there's something for the students to take, right? Yeah. The memories, the relationships they build, and with people there, but with people here. And it's far more nuanced than that.
And I agree with you and understand that. And I was an exchange student myself through Rotary and spent a year in New Zealand. So that changed my life. But I also look at it, you went as an electrician, had some skills, and went into a community and had some skills to offer. I'm really confused about how a grade 12 girl or a boy has anything to offer to a community for 2 weeks. I also, when I see the price tag on these and realize it's 2 weeks in an orphanage and 2 weeks on safari, I know who's making the money. So I have a problem with that. It's poorism is what I call it. They're going out to see the poor almost as if they're in the zoo.
Oh,
it bothers me. I understand that they are changed, but then I don't think a grade 12 or grade 12 girl or boy is now an expert on Uganda.
No.
After 2 weeks in an orphanage.
Absolutely.
And they come back feeling like they know what's going on. I think it's a lot more complex.
Well, it is, and I wonder to what degree that has to do with the pre and the post training, and what their, the cross cultural training they get, and so on. And there's only so much you can get in a 2 to 3 or 4 week trip. That's for sure.
I think those are the gravy trips. What I support and what I like to see is the kids running an event in their school. And it may be something as simple as, the old proverbial bake sale. It takes a lot of skill to make a very successul bake sale. And those are skills that can be scaled to any level once they've had a few experiences doing it. And I say basically can break events at high school into 3 categories: a 100-pound event, a 500-pound event, and a 1,000-pound event. You would never ask a kid to go into the weight room and lift 1,000 pounds right off the bat. But certainly a couple times on the 100 pounds, they're now capable. And then they move on to the event, which means it's after school. We got a chaperone, we got a cash box, maybe a little AV. That's a 500-pound event, which is 5 pieces of paper. And now that student leader has some skills and some abilities and some understanding what the job is.
So you at the CSLA, you don't actually get involved in the nuts and bolts of that. You're teaching. You're coming alongside the advisor to support them, to hopefully support that small group of kids or that one kid that wants to change the world.
Yeah. So we'll suggest an event. And one event that I say, just try this. It's called BYOB. And the kids get all excited. Can we? I said, no, it's a banana, not booze. And they go, all right, what's that? I said, what you're doing is you're teaching students that if they choose to be involved, they get a reward. So BYOB, banana on Friday at lunchtime. Kids show up with their banana. Student leaders are there with ice cream, sprinkles, and chocolate sauce. And they make the kids a banana split. All of a sudden, the kids feel better that they have provided this for their friends. The friends feel better because they're teenagers. They just got free food. And the kids running the show learned how to run an event. And everybody wins. And something as simple as that.
Is it hard to motivate young people to bring their own bananas? I mean, there's a bigger question
Food
there, right?
motivates every teenager. Chocolate is good. Pizza works for 90% of the population. Food works.
So you are, you're not cynical when it comes to the younger generation?
Not at all.
No?
No. I have seen, I think what's happened is the good kids are better than I was in grade 9. They're better looking than I was in grade 9. The skills that they have.
They wear way better clothes.
Still wear better clothes.
Better music too?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not every.
No, the music I have some problems with. But certainly they are able to do a lot more and more worldly than I ever was. So no, I have very, very high hopes and feelings for today's generation.
What do you do with this whole supposed level of entitlement of the younger generation that I hear about all the time? I teach at Hooper College. I feel like I'm a victim of it to some degree. This idea that, to go back to your comment earlier, the numerati, right? Because I think students do, to some degree, certainly postgraduate students see it as a, hey, I paid for this, therefore.
Yeah. I think it's always been there, and the fact that we're focusing on it makes it seem to appear larger than it really is. And yet there's still students that arrive in university or arrive in high school with troubles that you couldn't even begin to comprehend, and they succeed and they are successful. And they will always succeed and always be successful. So I think it's a favorite of the press now to focus on this entitlement. But sure, our society is more affluent and better off, but there's still kids who are willing to work hard and get her done. And those are the kids that I like working with, because they don't question what we're up to.
I mean, not to reduce it to numbers, but I mean, what are we talking about percentage-wise? You know, I mean, I see my kids, and I'm hopeful. I think they're going to be very involved. But who knows? You know, I've got a 7 and a 9-year-old, and they're both creative, and they ask great questions, and so on. All the stuff that most parents would probably say about their kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are kids more politically involved today?
No.
Do they really want to change the world? You know, you say they want to get their hands dirty and they want to roll up their sleeves, and that's great. But what does that actually mean long term?
Well, I'll go back a bit. It means we have to find and provide opportunities for kids. And if you find, like, again, 4 children of my own, and I know each child was fired up by somebody different. They all basically had the same teachers at elementary school and different opinions of the same teacher. Some teachers were great, some teachers were okay, but every kid needed to find someone different. So if I look at a high school situation, the kids at my school aren't any better singers than the kids at your school. But what I've got at my school is one crazy lady that's willing to spend her weekends and whenever teaching these kids how to sing in a choir. And the kids at your school are no better football players than the kids at my school, but they got a crazy coach who's willing to spend his time and effort to make them into better athletes. And so what I'm hoping is that your kids will find someone along their travel in education who will fire them up about robotics or debating or badminton or drama or glee club. I don't know. There are things that exist out there, and I shake my head. You got to be kidding. Middle of Weyburn, Saskatchewan, there's a lady there who runs a glee club that has guys in it. Like, that's usually, you know, it's 80% girls and a few guys. No, it was half and half. Why? She was nuts. She was crazy.
Yeah, very passionate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the kids bought into it.
Oh, totally. Kids, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, never mind kids. I think everybody buys into that, don't they?
Coaches, sure.
Yeah, I mean, everybody buys into a genuine passion and intent, it seems
So
to me.
maybe it's that teacher who introduces you to Shakespeare, or that
Well,
teacher.
we're back to your original comment. You don't fall in love with the textbook.
No, you don't. No. You fall in love with the idea that I could do this and be successful. And kids never show up for activities other than they want to be their best. Like, I finished my years in education as a vice principal, and I never had a guy sent down from badminton for texting or wearing his hat. He showed up to badminton to be his best. They show up to help out at a fundraiser to be their best and raise the most money that they can. They show up in your English class or your math class because they have to. It's on their timetable. It says math, period 3, you got to be there. So
I'm interested. So you've had quite an eclectic career, teacher. Tell me, ended it off with vice principal. I want to ask you about your old fartishness. Are you a nostalgic old fart when it comes to, you know, you talked about no student ever showed up late for badminton because they were on their device. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then I want to talk about your time you spent as an activities director, because I think that's clearly had a deep link to what you're doing today.
I'm not sure why I'm being called an old fart.
I'm not calling you one. I'm just wondering if you are, based on, you know, here's what I grew up with, here's where kids are today. I guess it falls into that whole entitled thing. You know, it doesn't sound like you are at all, actually. You've got a very hopeful approach with regard. You wouldn't be doing what you're doing if you didn't, frankly.
No. In fact, I went into teachers college realizing all I had was an English degree, and in order at that time to stand out from the crowd, I had to have something that was different. And so I picked up data processing. It was the only time that I could pick up something, or data processing in teachers college. Because somehow I saw this coming, this computer stuff was going to be big. I didn't know at all how big it was going to be, but it was going to be different, so I might as well figure this out. And I ended up taking a computer course in university over that summer, and got into it. And I got into it with an English background, so therefore I was the guy that was doing desktop publishing way before anybody had ever figured out that this was going to be doing things. So I ran a student newspaper that won an award in Ontario because we were using desktop publishing and looking really pro rather than the old,
Right.
blue
Oh yeah, I forget what are they called. I know
dittos.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name of the
blue
machine. The hand crank machines.
Yeah, the hand crankers. Yeah.
I was going to say linotype, but that's
No,
not
that
it.
was
That's
before.
before. That was like Heidelberg's time. Yeah.
So no, I've always been not on the bleeding edge of technology, but always interested, and getting my kids into videos with iMovie long before it became something to do. So what was I trying to do? Just provide opportunities for kids to be their best. And technology certainly gave an avenue that caught their interest and whatever.
Well, I just, now as a fairly sort of older young parent, I'm doing my best not to fall into that old fartish-like category with respect to music. And I listen to U2, and I'm going to see them in July, and I want my son to come with me, and he's going to come, I think, but he's not that keen. Old U2's music your dad listens to. You know, and so I don't want to divide and conquer with respect to media and technology and all those things, and approach it from a much more a wiser perspective, I suppose, instead of saying, "Oh, gee, I wish it was like this when I was," you know what I mean? Like, or that Monty Python skit. Well, when we were kids, you were lucky. At least you had a father.
It was kind of my first couple years in education. Go to the staff room, and there was always the rain cloud sitting in the corner of the staff room that would say, kids are the worst that we've ever had.
That's right.
They don't do their homework, and they don't have any respect for teachers, and they're just the worst seniors we've ever seen. Can you believe it? And the very next year, in the rain cloud, in the corner, these are the worst kids we've ever had. They don't do their homework. They don't respect teachers. I don't know how they're ever going to survive. And I went, wow, if they've been getting steadily worse each year, like it must be really bad in about 10 years. And so, no, they do things. And technology, I'm not totally in awe of technology. Like I haven't raced out to get my Apple Watch. I'm going to sit and wait and figure out what I can use it for. And I think that's the trick. What can I use technology to do to help me do things? It's a tool. It is a tool. And if it isn't working, I don't
If it's
use
not
it.
working, get it out of your toolbox.
Yes.
Sharpen it and put it back in, or sell it in the local garage sale.
Yeah.
So you spent quite a few years as an activities director. You've referred to that off tape or off podcast now as a fairly unique role, and a role that, by the sounds of it, doesn't really exist anymore. Can you talk about what you did?
In Waterloo County and then Waterloo Region schools, we had a position where you were paid as a head to be an activity director, which meant anything that happened outside the classroom was either your responsibility or your fault. And what that meant was that you were given time to run student council, student leadership, but you were also in charge of fundraisers or your dances or the budget for the yearbook. You didn't run the yearbook, but you were in charge of making sure that the yearbooks got delivered and handed out and didn't lose too much money. Booking buses for sports teams was done through my office and through myself. So whoever came into the school, whether it was the t-shirt guy, the ring guy, the yearbook guy, the photography guy, they all knew who to find. That was the activity director. And then that activity director, if they weren't directly in charge of, they certainly knew who was. And so there was someone with a resident amount of information, history, and ability to support you. And I think coaches who came to the Waterloo region were just floored by the fact that they were given all this support and all they really had to do was coach. And all of those things happened. It was different. It was based on a US model. And still going in, probably California is the place where it is still vibrant and alive. It was cut out of the Ontario system because of this old thing called teacher contacts. We were not in the classroom in front of any students, we were basically in charge of all the students, but it couldn't be tied to a specific contact. So their formulas and the number of guys basically killed us. So that position has gone by the by.
You said to me before that a lot of people would say to you, we wish we had that at our school.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I mean,
again, we traveled across the country and would speak to other people who were involved in student council or student government, and they couldn't believe how much they said. Even business people who weren't in the school system would say, well, that makes so much sense that there's one person who knows what's going on, who is able to control the schedule and the calendar for events outside the school and make sure they don't conflict too much with what's happening in the classroom. And that's the balance. Classroom still has to happen. Kids got to learn stuff. They have to graduate. But I think also we want to be able to provide opportunities outside of the classroom for either through sports, drama, music, activities, anything.
Did students take a hit when the activities directors were let go?
Yeah, but
or did teachers take a hit? I guess more work for the teacher now. I
yeah,
suppose,
and what's
right?
happened is a lot of things are not being done, and a lot of teachers who have been there for a while saying, "Well, why isn't this happening?" Well, because there isn't that person who's in charge of it. A student who arrives in grade 9 now, this is the new normal. This is what they know, so they don't know what they're missing.
Right,
So that's one of the problems. That it's a very short tour of duty in high school is 4 years, maybe 5 for some. But they don't. If it wasn't there when they arrived, they certainly didn't know it was there last year or the year before.
So I mean, you're supporting this idea that I'm continuing to talk about and think about and write about and so on and podcast about, but this idea that incremental change, little things make a big difference. It's the splash and ripple effect, and teachers, I mean, are a perfect example of that. Planting a seed, an idea, a passionate intent. This woman with the glee club, the chess club, whatever the heck it might be, the love for badminton and so on.
Yeah.
You must. I mean, is that part of the reason why you are hopeful? Do you get out of bed in the morning thinking about those positive things, those seeds?
Yeah. In fact, I call myself Little Davy Leader Seed, which sounds kind of sexual. So maybe I'll have to find a better thing. But
depends on the
audience.
Room. Yeah, the audience. Yeah.
One thing that we run a national conference every year where you bring the best kids in the country into one spot, and we put about 800 students from across the country, and this year, September, it'll be in Halifax. So that's the cream of the crop. Then every province will hold a leadership conference, so it's held in Niagara Falls in November here in Ontario. But every province sort of brings what I would say, if you give a hockey analogy, NHL would be the national conference, the CSLC. Junior A would be the provincial conference. And now I'm running one-day regional leadership conferences, which I would say are the equivalent of Junior B. They're the developmental leagues. Mm-hmm. And I travel across the country, did 15 of these this year, where we try to go into a school and poke and prod kids that say, it really doesn't take much. That Craig Kielburger, when he started out, didn't know that he was going to build Me to We. Mother Teresa didn't know that she was going to be a saint. She was just going to help a person. Mm-hmm. And all we want you to do is just go out and do something nice in your school. And if you like it, do it again or find something else nicer to do. And we have no idea what is going to float, because I'm the idea guy. I will say, hey, anybody want to try this? And one of my prime examples of a fun lunchtime activity, I think is fun, is called snot put. What is it? You put a Cheerio up your left nostril, close your right, and fire it as far as you can. As soon as I send that idea out into an audience, I immediately get people writing it down and other people just cringing, going, mm-hmm. You gotta be kidding me. That's okay. Mm-hmm. Because some group out there says, this is fun, my kids will do it, and somebody else says, no way in heck am I ever going to do this. Mm-hmm. And that's what I find with ideas. I have no idea who is going to say this is cool, and then who's going to try it and make it successful. But boy, do I ever get fired up. There's a fellow in Milton who had an idea about, we all do this, student of the week or athlete of the month or whatever. And he said, let's just make it general, and he called it the frame of fame. He went to Value Village, got himself an old-time frame, spray painted it gold, and you can nominate anybody for having really nice hair or telling good jokes or doing well on a math test or being the star in the musical, whatever you nominate them. He wanders into the classroom, puts a frame around you and takes a picture, and you're in the frame of fame. Well, I thought that was a great idea. Mm-hmm. I mentioned it to a couple people, and I'm in Strathmore, Alberta, walking down a hallway. No idea, but there on the wall is a bulletin board with the frame of fame photos they've taken in the last 6 months. And I went, that's what ideas are. You have no idea who's going to pick it up, and yet there's somebody doing nice stuff for other people. And as I said,
is there a kind of person that is attracted, do you think, kind of student that is attracted to changing the world, to making the world a better place, to doing the right thing or the fun thing, as you say, or for doing the nice thing? Or is it, does the actual environment itself act as the catalyst to bring that, to draw that, to bring that out, to draw that out of that individual?
Wow, that's an interesting question.
Nature, nurture.
Yeah. No, I honestly believe in my experience, some kids I never thought would take something on, say, no, that's what I want to do. And I went, you're kidding me, are you? No, I want to do this. And other kids that I thought should be doing this because they have all the skills and the talents, they go, no, I can't do that, or I'm not interested. So again, it's that hook somehow that someone says, I'm going to do this. I think you need some, and again, I've seen kids that I've tapped on the shoulder and say, you should be part of this. I know you would be good at it.
Right.
And they don't come. And there's other kids I tap on the shoulder and say, you should be part of this. And they go, I was just waiting for somebody to ask. I was just waiting.
Right.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. What else can I do? What else can I do?
Yeah.
And they just fire up. So again, did I know? I didn't know. I was told this kid was really good at video, and he went, oh, this is amazing. Well, why didn't you come in and see me? Oh, I didn't know I was allowed.
Yeah. No, I think there's something, I mean, where I went to was something you said earlier, but just, I forget the phrase you used, but it's quite nice, providing opportunities for, well, just providing opportunities. I mean, it's almost like that should be the tagline.
Oh, it is. No, and
should be on your business card. Maybe it is on your business cards, but
my opening thing with advisors, I tell the story of going to my final school, and Johnny Weber's running the fishing club. And I said, Johnny, you are running the biggest scam going. He said, no, it's the fishing club. I said, what are you talking about? You're going out a day fishing? He says, it's the fishing club. I said, you're not fishing. You're going to a trout pond. There's fish in the pond. He said, no, it's the fishing club. You come and see. And I looked at the kids going on the bus, and they're the kids from Somalia and the spec ed kids, and every kind of kid was getting on that bus. And you know what? He was providing an opportunity for kids whose either culture, parents, money, whatever, couldn't do it.
Right.
But school provided that opportunity to learn how to fish. And I went, that's what it's about.
Well, learn how to fish, and frankly, I think what resonated there with me was an opportunity to be together, to build relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, they may not even know, in a way, that's what's drawing them there, but it's about the spirit of inclusion, affirming one another, and so, like the kid that you tap on the shoulder to, I was just waiting for somebody to ask.
Yeah.
Right? It's not so much about the fishing, it's the camaraderie and the
the teenagers all want to be part of something. And if we don't provide positive opportunities, there's certainly a lot of people selling and inviting them into negative opportunities, and they'll be part of it. And I think the more opportunities in a positive vein that we can provide, the more successful and positive our communities will be.
That's a very nice way to end the interview. Thanks a lot for spending some time with us today. That's Dave Conlon here today at the, I was going to say at the University of Guelph. We're in the city of Guelph, and that's Dave is
Satellite campus.
Satellite campus, that's right, with the Canadian Student Leadership Association. Check them out online. Website?
Studentleadership.ca.
Studentleadership.ca. Conference coming up in the fall of 2015 in Halifax. And every year after that.
Yeah, we're off to Edmundston the year after that for our very first bilingual conference, and then back to Waterloo in 2017. So.
Excellent. Check them out online. Thanks, Dave, for joining us today. It's been a great interview. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.